When I heard Coach Prime's post-game interview last night, if I was a parent listening to the post-game interview, if I was a parent listening to the post-game interview, I would have been offended by some of the comments I think Deion inadvertently made.
How in the world that happens to us, but it did. And didn't turn it back on, I think, until late in the fourth quarter when we were able to go down and get a score, and we go down, and then they tied up and we got overtime, and you don't want to go in overtime because they have nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. I was surprised that they kicked the field goal the first time. I thought they was just going to go for two and try their best to get it over with. But they were resilient. Big win by them. Horrible loss by us. We didn't play well, not just Travis. I think it all started when we gave up on the 97-yard touchdown, which was flat out ridiculous. That's when it all started. That's when all the foolishness, all the complacency, all the mess started. I mean, how in the world we give up Jesus? Our secondary did not play the best game, especially at the cornerback position. Right now, we're not built for the moment. We're not built for the moment. Some of our players aren't built for the moment where they have to make a play, or they have to keep contained, or they have to make a block, or they have to get another yard. We're not built for the moment right now. Not being smart, not being disciplined, not understanding the moment. That's what that is. Yeah.
Now, let me get to the Deion Sanders situation, because some of y'all took issue with my post this morning. Let me get to the Deion Sanders situation real quick. Some of y'all took issue with my post. Hit the Cash App, $FDMG School. Hit the Cash App, $FDMG School. Hit the PayPal, paypal.me/FDMG Academy. Hit the PayPal, paypal.me/FDMG Academy. Let me say this. Deion Sanders. I did watch the first half of the game. I turned it off because Colorado was clearly in control of that football game. As I've told you before, I will never forgive Deion for abandoning the HBCU mission. He had the chance of rewriting history on behalf of Black America. He sold it out for a white college and some money. But that's water under the bridge. We can't take it back. Maybe he'll go back to an HBCU sooner than later. We're not here to talk about that. In watching the highlights of the Colorado game, and I'm going to talk about Jada Pinkett Smith in a minute, too, because I got a little bit of issue with Sister Jada Pinkett Smith disrespecting my Philadelphia brother, Will Smith. He's the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I'm the Fresh Prince of Pan-Africanism. Will Smith is the Fresh Prince of West Philly. I'm the Fresh Prince of North Philly. I'm going to come to Jada Pinkett Smith in a minute, but let me stay with Deion for 1 second, if I may, brothers and sisters. Let me stay with Deion for 1 second. When I reviewed the highlights of Colorado's stunning loss to Stanford yesterday, when I reviewed the highlights of the Colorado Buffaloes' stunning defeat to Stanford last night in their comeback win, from a psychological perspective, you know what I saw? I saw the young men of the Colorado football team begin to psychologically check out. They played their hearts out early, but I believe they got exhausted. And I don't think it was a physical exhaustion. I think it was an emotional exhaustion. I'm not making any excuses for the loss or the win. I'm not making any excuses for the loss or for the win. But I'm simply saying that I think Deion and Shador, who I think is going to end up making history in both the NCAA and the NFL. That is one heck of a quarterback right there. I pray that he's not bunny hopping. I pray that none of the Sanders sons are bunny hopping. That is my prayer. But good luck with that at a school with only 2% black women. But nonetheless, Umar loved to hate on black men. I'm not hating on anybody. Goodbye. Goodbye. So, I believe that the team, the Colorado Buffaloes, I believe they are getting exhausted and burned out from constantly having to live up to Deion Sanders' reputation. I think they're getting tired and burned out of constantly hearing about Deion and his son almost to the exclusion of all the other players. All I'm saying is I want Deion because I want him to be successful since he's there. I want him to be successful since he's there. I'm simply saying that I want Deion and Shador to back off the self-promotion for a minute and get this team back, because I think a lot of them feel like they're simply being exploited to fulfill the agenda of two individuals. That's what I believe. I think the rest of the team is beginning to give up. And you don't want a situation. You don't want a situation where they all psychologically check out, just like you drop out of school psychologically. Children psychologically drop out of school before they physically drop out of school. Children psychologically drop out of school before they physically drop out of school. And I'm hoping that the Colorado Buffaloes team isn't beginning to psychologically drop out because they played so well in the first half. And I don't know what was said during halftime. I don't know what was said during halftime, but I believe that those young men were just exhausted. Not just from the game, not just from Stanford's comeback, but exhausted because they are the center of the sports world, but they don't have the chess pieces yet to live up to the hype. Yes, they've already won more games than they did last year. Yes, they will probably end up in a bowl game. Absolutely. Yes, Deion has already made history with what he has done. Yes, yes, yes. But that has nothing to do with those young men. That has nothing to do with those 17, 18, 19, and 20-year-old boys on that field. It has nothing to do with them feeling like they are being held to a standard greater than all of the other Division I football players, and yet they don't have the talent to substantiate the expectations of Deion Sanders' grandiose history as a player and his possible grandiose ego. Coach Prime, when you do these interviews, my brother, and I think Deion does a good job with the interviews. He's not emotional. He always thanks his coaches and his team. But Deion, you got to be careful when you start saying things like, I want children who can embrace the moment. I want children who can live up to the moment. When I heard Coach Prime's post-game interview last night, when I heard Coach Prime's post-game interview last night, if I was a parent listening to the post-game interview, if I was a parent listening to the post-game interview, I would have been offended by some of the comments I think Deion inadvertently made. He didn't try to insult his players. He didn't try to demean his players, and he did come back and clean it up later. But if I'm a parent of a child playing on that team who's not getting any attention but playing a significant role on that field, and I hear the coach say we ain't ready for the moment and they shouldn't be here if they ain't ready for the moment, and I'm looking for players who ready for the moment, I understood where he was coming from. But some of his comments, not just those, some of his comments could have been taken as a bit insensitive for a group of boys who just lost a close game. Deion does have to make it less about him and more about his players. We know what a great NFL superstar he was, historic superstar. But every interview does not have to be about how often he won in college. Every interview doesn't have to be about how great he was as a player. Every interview doesn't have to be about, I'm not used to losing like this. He just got to be a little careful and stop bringing it back to him, because I don't want them boys to get together and decide we ain't playing no more. We just going to go through the motions. Because what I saw last night, I saw a team that quit. Yes, they got beat on runs. Yes, they didn't run routes. Yes, there was missed assignments, but y'all got to look beyond the play. Beyond the play, I saw a team that quit. And because I saw a team that quit, I have to ask the question whether or not they are getting exhausted. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, brothers and sisters.
Our reality is reflected by the music, and the music impacts the reality. And unfortunately, just like social media, the content of most black media has nothing to do with our political agenda, our social circumstances, our intellectual, cultural, or spiritual paradigm. We are making music that is self-destructive, misogynistic, that encourages mass incarceration, black on black crime, snow bunny hopping, and multiculturalism. We need black music and black media to reinvent itself as a weapon of African liberation.